For years, people have been speculating about the private lives of the British royal family, who have largely been able to sweep their scandals and indiscretions under the rug because of their power and influence. However, it's quite clear that they have some pretty dark secrets that they would prefer to keep buried. But not everything can stay hidden, and a lot of it has surfaced over the years, whether it's leaked messages, incriminating photographs, dozens of affairs, or even secret relatives. So what do you think was their biggest scandal? I'm your host Bridget Shields, and here are the top 10 heartbreaking things revealed about the royal family. Number 10. Harry's misconduct. Back in 2005, Prince Harry attended a costume party dressed as a Nazi. This is a risky enough outfit for anyone, let alone a British royal. Of course, pictures from the party were leaked to the press, who plastered it all over their front pages. Harry, who was 20 years old at the time, really should have known better, but he still made a public apology from his royal offices, which read, "Prince Harry has apologized for any offense or embarrassment he has caused. He realizes it was a poor choice of costume." But the papers held onto the story for quite some time, and it caused widespread outrage worldwide. Then 4 years later, in 2009, the prince was dealt another huge blow to his reputation when a tape emerged of him using racial slurs against members of his own army platoon. In the video, you can hear the prince using offensive language as well as racist terms. Once again, Harry had to make a public apology to try and save the royal family from further embarrassment. It didn't work, and the footage was relentlessly replayed around the world. If you're loving this video so far, please hit that like button, it would really help us out. Number 9. Prince Andrew's friend. The disgraced prince is no stranger to controversy. In 2011, it emerged that he was good friends with convicted sex offender and American financier Jeffrey Epstein. He was married to Sarah Ferguson, who came forward confirming their friendship and revealed that her ex-husband had asked Epstein to clear some of her debts. Although he later reported that he had cut all ties with Epstein, Buckingham Palace came under new pressure to explain their relationship with the American in 2015. The royal family has since tried to distance themselves from Andrew when his disturbing ties became public, and there was a civil case brought against him. Not long after that, it was announced that he would be stripped of his military titles and royal patronages and would no longer be allowed to use the title His Royal Highness in any official capacity. The trouble is that no one really knows the full extent of Andrew's involvement with Epstein, but the public mood still seems so set against him that he will likely not be able to return to public life for quite some time. Number 8. The Hidden Cousins. In 2011, an explosive documentary was released called The Queen's Hidden Cousins, which revealed a scandal that has avoided the public eye for decades. In the 1940s, mental illness was not understood as much as it is today, and so the royal family viewed it as an embarrassment when two of the Queen's first cousins, Nerissa and Catherine Bowles-Lyon, were born with severe learning difficulties. Born in 1919 and 1926 respectively, Nerissa and Catherine were never able to be a part of the royal family. Instead, they were incarcerated in a mental institution in 1941 and remained in care there for the rest of their lives. In the documentary, nurses who oversaw them categorically stated that no members of the family ever came to visit the two sisters, who were unable to articulate speech but apparently had a great spirit about them. When the story of the sisters' existence was published in 1987, a scandal instantly erupted when it emerged that the royal family had apparently erased two of its members from their lives entirely. Number 7. Diana's biography. It's no secret that Prince Charles and Diana had a terrible marriage, but unlike many royals, Diana was vocal about her private affairs. We know that she felt like a total outsider within the royal family and felt like a prisoner trapped in a loveless marriage. In Diana's biography, she recounted a desperate time when she felt truly shut out by her husband. Quote, "Charles said I was crying wolf. I said I felt so desperate I was crying my eyes out, and he said, I'm not going to listen, you're always doing this to me. I'm going to go riding now. So I threw myself down the stairs." She ended up falling right at the Queen's feet, and as it turns out, Elizabeth and Charles had nearly polar opposite reactions to her cry for help. According to Diana, the Queen comes out absolutely horrified, shaking, she was so frightened. Diana said that she was quite bruised around the stomach, but when Charles came back from riding, he just dismissed the whole incident and carried on out the door. Number 6. The hospital incident. Charles has always had a bit of a rocky relationship when it comes to being a father to his two sons William and Harry, although nothing really displayed his attitude as a parent more than the hospital incident in 1991, when an 8-year-old Prince William underwent emergency surgery for a skull fracture. The little prince was hit on the head with a golf nightclub while playing with schoolmates. The injury was so serious that he was kept overnight at London's Great Ormond Street Hospital following an hour-long operation. Princess Diana spent the night sleeping in a bed set up near William's room so she could look after her son, whereas Prince Charles took a different approach entirely. Rather than stay and comfort his wife and injured son, after a 15-minute visit, the prince left the hospital to go to the opera. It's no surprise that when Buckingham Palace was informed of the prince's decision to keep his previous plans but keep in touch with doctors, he was completely bashed by the tabloids. Number 5. Beatrice's boyfriend. The Queen's granddaughter, Princess Beatrice, is 9th in line for the throne now. She's well known for being a socialite and a philanthropist, but she has certainly made some sketchy dating decisions in the past. In 2006, when the princess was just 17 years old, she started dating an American playboy called Paolo. This relationship was very troubled. Not only was Paolo older than the teenage princess, but he had a dark past. Prior to his relationship with Beatrice, Paolo was arrested for the manslaughter of 19-year-old Jonathan Duchatelia. Well, apparently he decided to confront Paolo for disrespecting women at a party, so he got beat up. Amazingly, the manslaughter charge was dropped and reduced to a lesser charge, but he even broke the terms of his probation while dating Beatrice by taking a trip to the French Alps. Talk about red flags. But thankfully, their relationship didn't last long at all. Number 4. Princess Anne's marriage. As the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, Princess Anne's romantic life has been under a microscope since she was young, despite the fact that the princess lives a relatively private life away from the constant scrutiny that often follows a member of the royal family. She married Lieutenant Mark Phillips in 1973 at Westminster Abbey in a highly televised and anticipated ceremony, but their marriage was deeply troubled, and Phillips ended up having an affair with New Zealand art teacher Heather Tonkin. This resulted in a daughter being born in 1985. The marriage was in complete shambles, but struggled on for 4 more years before Princess Anne and Mark Phillips separated in 1989. The divorce was finalized a few years later in 1992. Interestingly enough, Anne remarried later that year, becoming the first royal divorcee since Henry VIII. Their wedding was much more reserved than the first one, with only 30 guests and no cameramen. And 30 years later, they are still happily together. Number 3. Margaret's heartbreak. Princess Margaret famously fell in love with Peter Townsend and was so dedicated to the man that she actually planned to marry him. But the relationship was doomed from the beginning, as he was 16 years older than her and already married with 2 children. While Townsend eventually divorced his wife in 1952, the Church of England's then strict rules about remarriage after divorce forced Margaret's hand. Under the Royal Marriages Act of 1772, the princess required the Queen's permission to marry before the age of 25. Although she had turned 25 that August, she still needed the Parliament's approval, and they had already made it clear that they would never offer her consent. She would have been able to marry him if she gave up her title and rights of succession, but Margaret was also aware that it would have never been allowed by the church either. She released a heartbreaking statement saying, "It might have been possible for me to contract a civil marriage, but mindful of the church's teaching that Christian marriage is indissoluble, I have resolved to put these considerations before any others." Number 2. Princess Diana's struggles. In 1992, Andrew Morton published his biography on the Princess of Wales, called Diana: Her True Story. It contained explosive details about Diana's eating disorder, something that was long rumored in the press but never covered this extensively. It turns out his source for it all was Diana herself, who passed the author confessional tapes. Quote, "The bulimia started the week after we got engaged and would take nearly a decade to overcome. My husband put his hand on my waistline and said, 'Oh, a bit chubby here, aren't we?' And that triggered off something in me and the Camilla thing. I was desperate." Diana revealed that she was driven to an eating disorder by being trapped in a loveless marriage and the pressure of being in the public eye. But her raw, candid confession sent shockwaves through the world at a time when eating disorders were rarely talked about openly. To have a global superstar do so and on such a stage challenged a major societal stigma. And coming in at number 1, Prince John. Born on July 12, 1905, Prince John was the youngest son of King George V, the Queen's grandfather. The young boy reportedly suffered from epilepsy, and the royal family was not particularly interested in having him live a very public life as a royal because of the stigmas behind the disorder. So they deployed a very familiar tactic to cope with what they thought would have been a scandal. They hid the child away from public view. Royal biographer Christopher Wilson has noted that some family trees completely leave out Prince John's name. He explained that if they feel they have somebody that isn't up to scratch, they want to write them out of the history books. And this happened in the case of Prince John. The moment that he died, we hear no more about him, which is incredibly sad but not unusual behavior when it comes to the British monarchy. That's everything that we have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.